Once upon a time, in a small village in Zimbabwe, there was a young man named Bhoki. He was known for being good-looking and charming, but he had one big problem: he was very poor. Every day, Bhoki watched his friends enjoy fancy cars, big houses, and a life full of luxury, while he struggled just to get by. He dreamed of having that kind of life, but it seemed impossible. One day, as Bhoki walked through the village market, he overheard two old women talking about a rich woman named Madame Foroma. She was much older than Bhoki, probably old enough to be his mother, but what caught his attention was the rumor that she was looking for a husband. And not just any man, she wanted someone young, strong, and handsome. This news got Bhoki thinking. Madame Foroma was very wealthy. She owned several businesses, including the biggest farm in the village, and was said to have a lot of money saved up. She had no children, so whoever married her could inherit all her wealth. Bhoki began to see this as his chance to escape poverty. When Bhoki told his friend Torea about his plan to marry Madame Foroma, Torea laughed. "You want to marry her just for her money? Are you that desperate?" he teased. But Bhoki didn't back down. "This could be my only chance to live the life I've always wanted," Bhoki said. Determined to follow through, Bhoki dressed in his best clothes the next day and went to Madame Foroma's mansion. Her home was grand, with high walls and beautiful gardens. Nervously, Bhoki knocked on the door, and soon Madame Foroma herself opened it. She was dressed in fine silk, and though she was old, she still carried herself with grace. "Why is a young man like you visiting my home?" she asked with a warm smile. Bhoki boldly replied, "I heard you are looking for a husband, and I believe I am the right man for you." Madame Foroma laughed softly. "Why would a young man like you want to marry an older woman like me?" she asked, clearly amused. Caught off guard, Bhoki quickly thought of a response. "It's not just your wealth that interests me," he said with his charming smile. "I see a strong and wise woman in you, and together, we could achieve great things." Madame Foroma thought for a moment, then said, "I will consider your offer, but you must prove that you are worthy." Excited, Bhoki agreed to do whatever she asked. The next day, Madame Foroma gave him his first task: take a basket of food to her workers at the farm. Though it seemed simple, Bhoki didn't argue and set off to the farm. It was a long walk under the hot sun, and by the time he arrived, he was exhausted. But when he saw how huge the farm was, he realized how much Madame Foroma truly owned. At the farm, Bhoki met Baba Bouncer, the old foreman. Baba Bouncer warned him that the basket task was just the beginning of the test. And sure enough, soon after Bhoki arrived, the workers faced a problem: the irrigation system had broken, and without water, the crops were in danger. Bhoki didn't hesitate, he jumped in to help fix it, working hard under the scorching sun. After hours of effort, the system was repaired, and the crops were saved. When Bhoki returned to the mansion, Madame Foroma praised him for his hard work but warned that there were more challenges ahead. She told him, "Wealth requires more than just desire, it takes strength and endurance." The next day, Madame Foroma gave Bhoki another test: go to the market and collect debts from people who owed her money. This task made Bhoki nervous, as he knew some people would not want to pay. But determined to prove himself, he accepted. At the market, some people paid easily, while others, like a woman named Asha, refused, claiming they were struggling financially. Bhoki had to stay calm and patient, knowing Madame Foroma would expect him to handle the situation wisely. He managed to collect most of the money, but not all. When he returned to the mansion, Madame Foroma noticed the missing amounts. She told him, "You did well, but marrying me will come with great responsibilities. You'll have to manage my affairs and face many challenges." As Bhoki walked home, doubts filled his mind. He still wanted the wealth, but he was beginning to realize it wouldn't come as easily as he had hoped. The next morning, he returned to Madame Foroma's mansion, unsure of what new test awaited him. Though he was tired and unsure, the dream of escaping poverty kept pushing him forward. Each day, Bhoki faced more tests, forcing him to prove not only his strength but his responsibility and wisdom. And every day, Bhoki wondered if the wealth he dreamed of was truly worth the cost. As Bhoki approached the grand mansion, Mama Esther met him at the gate, her usual warmth replaced by a more somber expression. "Madam Foroma is expecting you in her private chambers today," she said in a softer voice than before. Upon entering the chambers, Bhoki found Madam Foroma seated at a large, ornate desk covered in ledgers and documents. The sight of her deeply engrossed in her work reminded him of just how powerful she was. She paused and leaned forward as if studying his face. "I need your help with something delicate," she began. "There's a piece of land that belongs to a widow, Mama Solo. She's behind on her payments, and unfortunately, I must either take the land or offer her a deal that will leave her with nothing. I want you to handle the negotiation." Bhoki's heart sank. He had heard of Mama Solo, a poor, elderly woman who had lost her husband and struggled to care for her children. The thought of taking what little she had left didn't sit well with him. Still, the look on Madame Foroma's face told him this was more than just business. It was a test of loyalty, and perhaps of ruthlessness. "Madam," Bhoki began cautiously, "I understand the importance of business, but isn't there another way? Perhaps we could give her more time." Madame Foroma smiled, but her eyes remained sharp. "That is for you to decide, Bhoki. Remember, business is not about sentiment. It's about survival and strength. I'm asking you to handle this as a decision maker. Your choice will show me if you are ready to stand beside me." Leaving the mansion, Bhoki felt the weight of his ambition grow heavy. This was more than just a task, it was a moment that would define the kind of man he would become. When Bhoki arrived at Mama Solo's modest home, he found her sitting outside with her children, tending to the garden. She smiled warmly as he approached, unaware of the burden he carried. "Bhoki, my son, it's good to see you," she said gently. Bhoki struggled to find the words. "Mama Solo, I've come to talk about the land you got from Madame Foroma," he said hesitantly. "She sent me." The warmth faded from Mama Solo's face. She understood the reason for his visit. Kneeling beside her, Bhoki spoke softly but firmly, "I want to help you. Madame Foroma wants the land, but if I can convince her to give you more time, could you make the payments?" Tears filled Mama Solo's eyes as she answered, "I would try, Bhoki. I swear on my husband's name, I will do everything I can." Bhoki knew the risks of going back to Madame Foroma with a compromise. It could ruin his chances of standing by her side, but something in his heart told him doing the right thing mattered more than wealth. When he returned to the mansion that evening, Bhoki's hands trembled as he faced Madame Foroma in her grand chamber. "Did you take care of it?" she asked, her voice cool and controlled. Bhoki stood tall, feeling the weight of his decision. "I spoke with Mama Solo. She's willing to make the payments if given more time. I didn't take the land, madam." Madame Foroma's eyes narrowed, and the room seemed to grow colder. "You disobeyed me," she said softly, her voice laced with disappointment. Bhoki swallowed hard. "I didn't disobey you, madam. I made a decision. You asked me to think like someone who could stand by your side. That's what I've done. I believe there's value in giving her a chance." After what felt like an eternity, Madame Foroma finally spoke. "You've surprised me, Bhoki," she said slowly. She rose from her chair and walked toward him, her gaze unwavering. "This wasn't just about business, it was about seeing whether you could make a hard choice and stand by it. You've passed, for now." Bhoki exhaled, the tension leaving his body. But he knew this wasn't the end. Madame Foroma remained a mystery, and there was still much to learn about her world. As Bhoki left the mansion, he realized that the path he had chosen was far more complicated than he had anticipated. Wealth wasn't just about riches, it came with heavy responsibilities and moral dilemmas. He had passed this test, but at what cost? The next day, as Bhoki walked through the village, he noticed the whispers following him. Some admired his courage for standing up to Madame Foroma, while others doubted he had what it took to survive in her world. When he arrived at the mansion, Mama Esther greeted him with a curious look. "You're making waves, young man," she said with a mix of caution and approval. "But be careful, Madame Foroma doesn't test people for fun." Inside, Madame Foroma stood beside a large window, gazing out over her estate. She turned to Bhoki. You've proven you can make difficult decisions. But today, I'm testing your loyalty. I have a close associate, Chief Musa, who I suspect has been stealing from our ventures. Your task is to find out the truth. If he's betraying me, I expect you to expose him. Bhoki left the mansion, unease swelling in his mind. Investigating a man as powerful as Chief Musa was dangerous, but this was his test of loyalty. At Chief Musa's grand estate, Bhoki sensed the tension immediately. The chief greeted him warmly, but the conversation quickly turned serious when Bhoki raised the issue of discrepancies in profits. Chief Musa's smile faltered, his tone darkening. Are you accusing me of stealing from her? I'm not accusing anyone, Chief, Bhoki said carefully. I'm just here to gather information. After a tense standoff, the chief reluctantly handed Bhoki some documents. As Bhoki left the estate, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He returned to Madame Foroma with the documents but voiced his doubts. I think Chief Musa is hiding something, Bhoki said. I don't trust him. Madame Foroma nodded, satisfied. You've learned to trust your instincts. Loyalty fades when money is involved. Each test drew Bhoki deeper into Madame Foroma's world, where loyalty and power seemed to outweigh morality. Yet, with every step, Bhoki questioned how much of himself he was willing to sacrifice for wealth. When Bhoki arrived at the mansion for his final test, Madame Foroma stood beside a large wooden box. Inside is a contract that would destroy Chief Musa. By signing it, you secure your place beside me, but you'll also ruin a man's life. This is your final test. Bhoki stared at the box, his mind racing. After all he had done, was he ready to crush another man for his own gain? I can't sign it, Bhoki finally said. I won't destroy someone's life, no matter the reward. Madame Foroma's gaze softened, and a slow smile spread across her lips. You've passed the real test, Bhoki. You've shown that your values are worth more than riches. Though Bhoki had chosen not to continue by her side, Madame Foroma acknowledged his strength of character. He had stayed true to himself. As Bhoki left the mansion for the last time, he felt a sense of peace. His journey wasn't over, but it would now be on his own terms, guided by his values. The moral of Bhoki's story reminds us that the pursuit of wealth and power often demands moral sacrifices. Yet, true strength lies in staying true to one's principles, even when the stakes are high. In the end, wealth is not worth losing yourself. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed Bhoki's story, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more inspiring stories from Southern Africa.